And we've called the press conference here today because of updates that we have to give on the whole repression by the FBI. As everyone knows, on September 24th, there were unspeakable actions that took place in this state and other states where the FBI raided and subpoenaed numerous individuals. And since that date, the FBI repression and investigation has expanded so that now there is a total of 23 that have been subpoenaed before a grand jury. And I'm going to start by turning the conference over to Jess Sundin, who is one of the first individuals that was raided and subpoenaed, and a longtime member of the Anti-War Committee, who was also raided and subpoenaed by the FBI.
We are here today to express outrage that our democratic rights have been violated by a government operation of spying, infiltration, and disruption of our anti-war movement, which was carried out over the course of at least 2.5 years. In April of 2008, a law enforcement officer, Karen Sullivan, joined the Anti-War Committee. In 2008, at that time, we were involved in organizing the anti-war marches on the first and last days of the Republican National Convention. That time there was a massive security operation here, which included the infiltration of the RNC Welcoming Committee. We now have it confirmed that in this same period, we too became the subject of a government investigation. The difference is, our spy made herself comfortable and decided to stay a while, posing as a fellow anti-war activist and pretending to befriend us. For 2.5 years, Officer Sullivan participated, sometimes even serving as chairperson, in weekly anti-war committee meetings here in this very room, where everyone present has a say in the decisions that the committee makes. Officer Sullivan had a key to this office, which was later used by the FBI on September 24th to enter the office, search it, seize our computers, financial records, and other materials. For the last year or so, she has assisted with the bookkeeping for the Anti-War Committee and had unimpeded access to our financial records. On several occasions, Officer Sullivan gave public speeches on behalf of the Anti-War Committee, including on Colombia and Palestine. Some of these speeches, I'm sorry to say, can still be found on our website. My point here is that Officer Sullivan had full access to all the work of this committee, to our membership lists, our finances, our decision-making, and anything else she wanted to know about us. And even after 2.5 years of this full access, there are no charges against anyone. Instead, lacking evidence to charge anyone, 24 people are being dragged through an intimidating grand jury process, which is official expedition. If there were truly criminal activity happening here, Agent Sullivan would have known all about it. The only crimes committed here were the abuses of our rights carried out by Karen Sullivan herself. Unfortunately, Officer Sullivan took a special interest in the Anti-War Committee's coalition work. She represented our committee at meetings of the Iraq Peace Action Coalition and the Coalition for Palestinian Rights. She also represented us in national venues, the Latin America Solidarity Coalition, the School of the Americas Watch protests, and at the U.S. Social Forum in Detroit last summer. About a year ago, she also joined Freedom Road Socialist Organization, which is talked about in the government, by the government in this case, in a manner reminiscent of McCarthy-era political witch hunts. The government has no right to spy on the Anti-War Committee or the many organizations we've worked with. Officer Sullivan's actions reflect only the latest example of FBI surveillance of progressive movements in this country. These kinds of actions were described in detail in the October 2010 Inspector General Report, which documents efforts to spy on peace movement groups just like the Anti-War Committee. These actions make a mockery of our democratic rights, as outlined in the Constitution. The rights to freedom of speech, freedom of dissent, freedom of association. Officer Sullivan went beyond simply surveilling us to become an active participant in the work of the Anti-War Committee to the point of disrupting it. When I speak about disruption, I am referring to an August 2009 solidarity delegation to Palestine. This delegation was a fact-finding mission where participants were to witness the conditions for Palestinians living under U.S.-backed occupation and to express their solidarity, our solidarity, in a person-to-person way. Officer Sullivan made public her plans to join this delegation. She helped to promote it in the community and to fundraise for it right here in Minneapolis. At the same time, she was secretly working to sabotage the trip entirely. Through her work, reports were passed on to Israeli authorities, who then barred entry to the 2 Minneapolis women traveling with Karen Sullivan. Her action on behalf of the U.S. government deprived these women of their right to travel, association, and dissent. The government was wrong to disrupt our important and legal work against U.S. aid to Israel. It has become apparent to us that this delegation and some of the fundraising work done to support it is of great concern to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Chicago. In order to help fund the travel of these 3 women from Minneapolis, including Officer Sullivan herself, and to send a token symbol of solidarity to the Palestinian people, a series of fundraisers were organized. We were very open about our work to support the Union of Palestinian Women's Committees, which is an NGO registered with the Palestinian Authority and which is not illegal under Israeli or international law. The Union of Palestinian Women's Committees works for women's equality. Their activities include support for women refugees and women political prisoners, and providing basic social services for women, including several child care centers. These women are right to be working for justice for themselves and for Palestine, and there is no reason we should be criminalized for supporting them. However, that is exactly what has happened. On September 24th, federal agents burst into our homes and turned our lives upside down. The community, fellow activists, co-workers, friends, and family all rallied around us. In fact, people we never met from across the country have stood by us to defend our rights to engage in anti-war and international solidarity activism. But one person disappeared entirely, a person we thought was a fellow activist and who had claimed to be our friend, Karen Sullivan. This woman not only worked with us in the Anti-War Committee and other groups, she involved herself in our personal lives, getting to know our children, joining in birthday celebrations, and paying visits on our family when someone was in the hospital. In conversations with the U.S. Attorney's Office in Chicago, it has become clear that everything we thought we knew about Karen Sullivan was a lie. She was never a friend or a person of conscience working to help us build peace and justice. Instead, she was a law enforcement officer working to surveil us, our friends, and our organizations. She was working to disrupt our political organizing. This is more than a story of personal betrayal, but one of political repression. It sickens me that on the word of this liar, the government came into our homes, seized our property, and launched a grand jury witch hunt that has snared not only those that had the misfortune of knowing Karen Sullivan, but now so many other good people from here to Chicago and across the country. On the word of this liar, the FBI has questioned our colleagues across the country, from North Carolina, Wisconsin, Arizona, California, and who knows where else. Rather than crumble under this pressure, our movement is responding with strength and unity. We will stand together behind every woman and man that Patrick Fitzgerald tries to haul before the grand jury. On January 25th, it's a very important day. There were 9 new subpoenas issued last month, and this is the day that these people, who are all Palestinians and Palestine solidarity activists, are being called before a grand jury in Chicago. People will be protesting at federal buildings and FBI offices around the country. Here in Minneapolis, we'll gather January 25th at 4:30 p.m. at our federal building to demand that there be an end to this witch hunt. We, the anti-war and international solidarity activists being targeted by Fitzgerald, have the support of every progressive movement in this country. I'm not exaggerating. From large trade unions to the immigrants' rights movements, students, people of faith, everyone in between. Opposing war is no crime. International solidarity is no crime. We are not alone, we have done nothing wrong, and we will not be afraid. Thank you.
Speaking on behalf of the Iraq Peace Action Coalition, is a coalition of numerous groups in the Twin Cities, which organizes demonstrations, exercising the First Amendment rights of free speech and freedom of assembly of the U.S. people to protest wars and occupations carried out by the U.S. government. War is an issue of transcendent importance, a life and death issue for the people in the United States and throughout the world. The U.S. wars and occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan have cost the lives of over 5,000 U.S. soldiers and many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of lives of Iraqis and Afghans. So it is crucial that the people of this country have the right to voice our opinion, including in opposition to any wars of aggression in the Middle East or anywhere else. And that we have that right free of government spying and infiltration like that of police agent Karen Sullivan, who along with other groups like the Antiwar Committee, as Jess said, she attended numerous meetings of the Iraq Peace Action Coalition, no doubt filing reports with her police superiors. This spying is an illegal violation of the rights of the people and has a chilling effect on the exercising of constitutional rights. So IPAC joins with others in demanding an immediate end to government spying. We demand immediate identification and removal of all agents from all peace groups now and in the future as well. Lastly, let me say that members of the Iraq Peace Action Coalition stand in solidarity together with the activists here in Minneapolis, Chicago, and other places who've been raided and subpoenaed in this so-called grand jury investigation. And we will stand together with them, come what may, until the end of this witch hunt, whenever that may come.
Last, I would like to introduce Colleen Rowley.